Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad Jordan and I are so glad you fell out of bed this morning to join us. We really appreciate it. And as I said before, this is our third year doing this. We love it. We create connections between you all and artists in the area. In the area includes Virginia, DC, and Maryland. And we have had quite a wonderful menu of artists. And if anybody's curious and hasn't accessed it, we have a YouTube video archive. In Jordan's website, you can immediately go to the ACO tab in his website. And also, if you're just curious, you can Google ACO community YouTube channel, and it will appear. So feel free to look over older meetings and archives just to get a sense of the artists that we have interviewed and invited to interview. It's been our pleasure to do that. We have had a few forums, like groups of people talking about, for example, plein air painting, and we had another forum on the DC art models. And that was really interesting because they're posing for us, every day. And they formed a collective, which is lovely. And actually, I have referred their website to other people in upstate New York, to models who either are already professional models or are wanting to be professional models and have modeled for my group in upstate New York. The Yates County Arts Center. And so it's really nice to sort of connect across interests and ages and media as well. So we learn from each other and we learn about each other, which is really a treat for us. So I think I'm going to start.
Okay.
We have a real treat today. Thank you for joining us for the last ACO for 2024. We're going out with a bang because we invited Joyce Zipperer, who is a wonderful person and artist. She is a 2D and 3D artist. So over the time of her lifespan, she has tried and succeeded at so many wonderful things. So I don't want to recite her bio here, but she's a sculptor. She deals with stone, metals, fiberglass, textiles, and paints with lots of texture and bas relief and cutouts and textiles. And what I love the most, she uses a lot of humor and thoughtfulness about portraying the human female in fashion in different ways, so that she comments on the torturous devices that we all have been made to wear over the years. At least for those of us who needed to or want to follow fashion. And without much ado, I will turn it over to Joyce. Welcome, Joyce.
Well, gang, thank you so much for joining, friends and family. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you to Mariana and Jordan and John and Tristan and Vincent for helping me get through all this. So I want to say one sentence that I wrote, and it kind of sums up what I feel about art. To be totally absorbed, becoming one with your artistic creation is nirvana. The need to express through creativity is a powerful emotion, an internal drive, a passion to create no matter what. So that's it. And I'm getting ready to take you through a 50-year journey that started in 1974 when I was juried into the Torpedo Factory as one of the original members. And it was being there with with a body of artists that shared, like minds, sharing each artistic visions. Initially, I was a seamstress. I sewed for other people. I sewed for myself and other people, and then I got tired of that, and the art was taking over. One thing I wanted to say is that I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and that city is the original Mardi Gras city. That's where Mardi Gras started. And a lot of people probably didn't know that because New Orleans really overshadows since they really are the big place. But anyway, the carnival atmosphere that I experienced in my younger days, I'm sure had an influence on my work because every every year for 2 weeks, the whole city just turns into a carnival atmosphere with spectacular floats and glittering costumes. And and it just I just loved it. It influenced me. But my mother taught me to embroidery when I was 8. And I started sewing too because she was an excellent seamstress. And then my dad, being a carpenter, he loved me to come out in his workshop, and he'd let me use all of his tools. So I had both interests going, and it didn't matter whether I was in the house or out of the house. I was always creating something. So by the end of high school, I had a totally handmade wardrobe, including ball gowns, and I'm sure there was the influence too from being in a city of Mardi Gras like that. So moving on down the line, my when I was in college, I was in clothing and textiles, and part of the curriculum was graphic design and pattern making, and I never realized how much influence the pattern making had because I approach everything I've ever done by making a pattern, and particularly when I got into the metal because it it was it has sections, so it was like putting together, to me, it was like putting together a piece of clothing. And I had to make sure that everything fit precisely. Now, some of the work I didn't need to use patterns, but when I got into the paintings, and I'll start showing you, I want to go back to first, I'm going to start with the unweavings, which I developed in 1977. And I would take a piece of raw canvas and I would remove, like in the case of this one, I removed all the threads within that circle that ran horizontally, leaving the other threads attached at both ends. And then there behind that is bright painting and strips of mylar. So when you take the threads out in the horizontal position like this one, you get a draping at the bottom. And so I did a few of those, and some of them were real plain. This one I loved. This was really original first. And the next one is I used raw canvas and I painted it on both sides, and then I unwove it. And so you get this wonderful gala of color. And the next one, Black Lavender, I did the same thing. The whole underneath was on the back side. And both of these are raw canvases because you cannot use primed, obviously. And so I just love the effect of what happens when you do it that way. And then I started branching out a bit. I decided to paint the surface first and then paint it right across the surface and then unwove it to get these shadows. And I like that kind of ethereal look. This is when I went into the paintings of assembled work, and this piece is a large piece that is the black in between was just because that was the background of the picture, and I, you know, cropped it down, but the black would have been just a wall, whatever color you had back there. But it was in three sections, and I started making unweavings that I would unweave the piece, and it would have two solid strips underneath what you see here, which is the prime painted canvas is rolled under, and underneath that is where I could slide in the edges of this big unwoven section. And so I could make those any size I wanted and drape them to fit exactly where I wanted it to be. And so I did a number of those. And then this one, and this is the slide that unfortunately came out the worst, but this piece was fabulous in its day and without the dust all over the slides that they couldn't get rid of or didn't get rid of. But anyway, that one shows you 5 sections. And there again, I let some of the threads be broken and hang down in a bit of a fringe to give you that just a very kind of a real feminine look. But that piece was so beautiful that it did sell right away and went to Texas, and I never saw it again. This was another departure, but I was starting to get into more sculptural thinking. So I made this fan, and it folds up and stands. When it stands up, it's 52 inches high, but it unfolds to 8 feet wide. And I made the stand that it leans on out of an old cane chair. So that was part of the seat, and it just balances perfectly. And when I show it, it's backlit. So you see the light coming through. And it kind of has a stained glass effect, I think, but without the color or anything. But it was so much fun to do. And um, so we'll go forward. Let's see. This is another unweaving where I painted heavy thread, painted some of the unwoven threads very heavy with paint so that they were stiff, and then made these swooping layers. And in this one, you can see a vertical bit of unweaving down at there on the right. So, and then I left the kind of left the unweavings out. And this piece is totally painted and using a drip process. And there again, I rolled under all the edges to get the effect that I wanted in the depth. Because texture was one of the things I've always been driven by, and just love that with the filmy edges. And then in the meantime, I did these dyed gauze pieces, and it's tightly cropped, but it's plexiglass over the wood frame. So these just hang freely inside this box. And then I decided to try some driftwood, and I love this piece too. But the dyed gauzes were so much fun because I could, no matter what kind of paint, when I had paint left over, I would just cut a strip of gauze and dip it in the paint, and it would stiffen and stay in these forms. And I've had them for years, and they just, they're still the same. And then this is one that is this was a commission piece, and it uses no unweavings at all. It's all dyed gauze so that you have this filmy effect and this never-ending kind of depth landscape. And then this one, well, I did have a line on the edge to kind of delineate there, but I guess it just disappeared. But anyway, I did a bunch of paintings where it looked like you were inside caves, and it looked like parts of the stone were raised, and I think I have a love for the American Southwest. And so I went to Canyon de Chelly, and that influenced a lot of my work as well. And then I went from the assembled canvases and started into really depth styrofoam and made these slabs that sticks out from the wall 8 inches, and it was backlit underneath, and you see that kind of little triangle there peeking out. And I just loved making these assembled things out of the styrofoam. So I did a number of things like that. Here, the same thing using celluclay, and later. Now I always completely covered the styrofoam, so that it was very substantial. It has it even has a layer. I did the painting, and it has a layer of gauze, which gives it, in the color part, a very different texture. And um, and it was over. I think I had put some very heavy fiberglass underneath it, underneath the canvas that went on next, then the paint, and so forth, until I got to celluclay, which is a paper clay with adhesive in it. And so it sets up quickly, and it makes, and it's never even as far as color goes, because every time you mix another batch, it could either be lighter or darker, but I really liked that muted quality that it brought forth. Okay. Then I moved. Here was where I had multiple thicknesses, and copper. Those bits of copper started coming in the top squares. And I would also use, in the cracks in some of the pieces, I would have gold leaf, or sometimes I would have mirror in there. And I'm not sure any of these that I'm showing you today have the mirror, but I love getting that glint. It's like a little surprise when you pass by, or when the light changes. And then I moved into concrete and made this little ball, and joined it. As the concrete set up, it has a steel joint in the bottom so that it remains in this shape. And then I had these scraps of triangular mirror, so it reflects all the gold leaf on the inside. And in Resurrection 2, this is Drive It, which is an industrial product. And I know you see it all the time because they use this. It's made for styrofoam, and they actually create buildings out of this product. And this particular one had very fine rock aggregate in it, and I use that right over the styrofoam. It has there again a heavy mesh in the background, and I mean underneath the Drive It. That's part of the system that helps it to stay where you want it and look good. And then I would just sometimes I would buy 5-gallon batches of that, and then it was very acrylic friendly, and so I could mix smaller batches and tint it to whatever color I wanted, and it's just permanent and wonderful. And this particular piece, the paintbrush in there goes with an entire paintbrush series that I started in 1990 when uh, the government, let's see, the government would not allow, or I can't think of the word, uh, they would not fund public art anymore. So my reaction to it was this paintbrush series. And in this particular piece, there is uh, this is like the Capitol without the dome. So I'm just showing you the interior, I mean, the exterior and then the interior. And that's it if you view it from over the top. So I've put in uh, a paintbrush, an old paintbrush. I was using all my old paintbrushes and making these headdresses of copper, and I would cut little bitty bristles, and I would wrap them like they were mummified. And um, I did a number of these. I did some. I have a great big one that's under plexiglass, and it's 4 feet um, long and about 6 inches wide. And then moving on, here's another bigger piece. This was at Brookside Gardens for a year. And this has total Dryvit, very thick with the concrete. And the copper that I added would reflect inside when the sun hit it at different directions. And I just thought it was so beautiful in that setting. And then I'm throwing in this piece because I had moved into starting to use aluminum, and I just love my little fluffalazza. The armature on this is styrofoam with a very thick Dryvit compound on it, and then I hand cut all these rows and rows of aluminum. And then this piece was at Strathmore. I'm not sure it's still up anymore, but I had such a good time doing this. It was on a light pole that the tie when I did it was not necessarily supposed to go outdoors, but it was heavily, heavily coated with white Dryvit. And then in that stuff, see, you can count, you can sink in, embed. So all that was stained glass, and it was just a nice little, looked like confetti to me. And I did the bowler hat and made that with Dryvit to solid black, and then put together the steel rod to form the face. And that monocle is the monocle part is supposed to be hanging straight down, and I just noticed that it was curled up somehow in the top of that pole, but it didn't matter. It's still wonderful. So so then I moved into, this is still styrofoam. I moved into these flexible wearable neckties, and this has, of course, the gold leaf and the neckband, which has on the end, it has what's that gripping stuff? Velcro. It has Velcro to go under under a man's collar, or a woman if she wants to wear a tie like that. Let's see, where am I? So anyway, they were very lightweight, and had a lot of collectors. And they said the only thing they had to get used to was it banging, not yeah, because it didn't hurt, but it would slightly bang against their chest. And they said they weren't used to that, but they loved it and they would wear them to my shows, which I loved. Okay, so then I moved into some welding because I really the ever since we moved here in 1970, and I loved going to the Hirshhorn in that garden, the outdoor sculpture, and I was crazy about metal sculpture, but I didn't have any facility, you know, to weld or do anything like that. So at this point in my life, and this was like around 2000, I had the opportunity to take welding and play with this metal. So there's my necktie with scraps, and it was just so much fun. And of course, it's not the best welding, but it's very sturdily together and fun. I didn't care whether it was the best welding. But here's one. This was my first corset, and I found every bit of these pieces just in an ersatz pile of scrap metal, and those winged pieces on the side. It just spoke to me. This has got to be a corset. And then I could make the lace on the handle. I mean on the strap very easy because I cut this very airy steel into this lacy looking thing and attached it to that steel strapping. But anyway, in the brass buckle. And then this is steel and uh, cast bronze. And this was the only piece of bronze that I ever did, but it is my face. And I have manipulated layers over, together over that bronze. I mean, it's all one piece. And it's kind of a self-portrait because you can't even see the end of the brush, but it is a paintbrush in my mouth. And I have used mirror for the eyes. And so, it glistens to you when you walk by it. And then moving, of course, the underlying theme of the majority of my work has been something attached to clothing, except that, I'm using metals and stone instead of material. And I love finding things that look like cloth but are not. And the story behind this piece, the 13-inch lure, is that Queen de Medici had a 13-inch waist at one time, and she demanded that her entire court have 13-inch waists. So she decreed this, and they were very diminutive people, so they weren't really probably more than 5 feet tall, or she would choose people like that for her court. I don't know. But anyway, this was a great fun piece. And you can see it's aluminum and stainless steel. And then the nice little short slip there is the fiberglass. And I loved using, I don't think you can see it in here, but it does have some detail on the straps where I crocheted wire and made it look lacy a bit on the piece, on the straps. So now I'm into copper because I decided I really love working with copper. I did not continue with the welding very much for the simple reason that I don't have a welding setup in my studio, and I do love welded pieces. But this worked for me better because I could work on this inside my studio and on the back deck. And so I got a whole bunch, I was given a whole bunch of patinaed, naturally patinaed copper downspouts. So I opened them up and took them apart and made these corsets. And corsets like this are just one of my favorite things to do. There's one, the original is behind me on the table over here. You can probably see it. And this one is a newer piece. This one was done in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. And then my rack bra, actually done on deer antlers because that underwiring cuts your ribs. And so this one I used a wire that I macrameed that goes around the back of your neck. And then in my stone work, here we go again with a corset. And ta ra ra bustier. I love this was an old stone. So when I see stones, they really talk to me, and I kind of know what I want to get out of them. So I thought, well, this would be my perfect time to be able to do another corset. So I'm showing you the front view and the back view. I love the back view because that was very intricate, and I studied under Constantine Cephalus for 5 years, and he was the only Greek sculptor at the National Cathedral. And he had actually made a tool, a chisel for doing fine work. And so he loaned me the chisel, and he says, here, use this. And that chisel it was between an eighth to about a fourth of an inch wide. And when I finished doing that lacing, he said, here, this is like dental work. He said, you can have my chisel. I loved it. I use it to this day. Okay, so then this was one of the first stones I ever carved. And it, of course, the shoe, what else? And then the cane stone is related to limestone. It's a half of a point softer. And I love this stone. I've never had a whole lot of it, but this one I made the use out of it. It was like carving with butter, but it's a very substantial stone. Now you cannot polish this, but you can polish limestone, which all the other stones are made out of. But I didn't do any stone work that needed polishing. But this goes back to the relationship of the ancient, finding fossils and all that. And I was a rock hound and loved to collect stones and pebbles and other things. So this was right down my alley. And these arches, this is one arch. It's just two visions. And that stone, 8 inches deep, and I went all the way through it to make this arch. And then heavy carving with the floral design done in 2002. Okay, so then I moved my work kept overlapping back and forth the different materials and mediums that I used. And so we arrived at the clothesline. And these pieces, the size of the clothesline would vary anywhere from 14 feet to 21 feet. This one happened to be 18 and had an awful lot of thongs on the end. People would often purchase parts of the clothesline, so then I would just fill them in with other things, other designs. But everything on here, like the copper, is copper mesh wire, and I hand stitched every one of these with the first one copper wire, the second one was aluminum wire mesh, screen mesh, and that was all hand stitched either with steel wire or a very strong fiberglass, but mostly it was steel wire. And that's the way it went all the way down the line until I got to the end, and then I hand crocheted several thongs that have been sold, and a lot of the skinny thongs, which a lot of those have gone too. But then later, this was the fig leaf, and out of that I shaped the copper, and made it look like that. And then I started putting it at the beginning of the clothesline instead of at the end, because I figured, well, we got to give some, tribute to Adam and Eve. So here we go. Okay, so leaving the clothesline for a bit, I got into the shoes. Now this shoe and these two, I'll show you this one first. This piece was cut out of a single piece, a single sheet of textured aluminum, and I folded it and shaped it myself. And the only addition, I mean, even the heel, everything, the ankle straps, the heel, all of that is one pattern with the fluffy stuff in the front. And so I shaped that. And the only addition to this shoe is the insole. So that had to be applied separately. And the cap nuts, they hold everything together with the washers. Okay, then I moved on to the Hell on Wheels, and definitely used patterns for this. And I was very surprised how well this one went together, but the patterns really worked with this piece. And finding the wheels, and then I had never really done any beads and wire in a pattern, but that little thing in the front, which is actually the toe thong, looked like a really nice seat. But anyway, it's a toe thong, and it just, to me, put everything together with the pin caps up there and the streamers and the antique wheels. Okay, so here's spiky. Now I'm into job site copper. And so what job site copper is when people, when builders are doing their thing, roofers or whatever, but this is a nice heavier that I can hand cut and use. And it also, that literally is one piece of copper, even the back pieces with all the points and that's all one piece that I made a big pattern and then folded it and shaped it into what you see as this shoe. And so this is the same way. This is, of course, newer, brighter copper. And now I have finally found something I can put over the copper to keep it rather bright for the rest of its life. A nice liquid. And so this one, I was inspired to do this shoe by leaves, oak leaves that I walked across on the sidewalk. And I thought, my goodness, I think I can make a shoe out of that shape. So I played with it. and this is what it came out. And the stem, of course, is your little ankle strap. Now this one, we have the downspout material, and I like to do these feathery looking things. This was built on an antique shoe last. So I could add this antique wheel to the back and this copper mesh on the inside, and then that beautiful patinaed downspout. Okay, this is in fact a very old antique shoe last, and it's hard to find these with the arch already there. I have only maybe 3 of these, and but it was just perfect, and that was I just saw this inspiration. I thought this will be so much fun. Now, of course, the copper wheel, which is fine with this piece. It goes nicely with that tube. I did spray paint that with metallic spray, and it does roll, and it has a nice long insert that I had to drill in the bottom to get it in there. But that's what a shoe last looks like. And then
Joyce, can I interrupt you for a
yes,
second? This is
please.
Mariana. I'm reading from the chat. Could you tell us around what price your shoes were going for?
Yes. Let's see. Let me back up a second here. I believe I believe this was in the neighborhood of 1,200. This one 1,500. These I do for 800. Same with that. Um, thank you. This one I put the price 2,500 on it. This one is 700, 800. It's about 700. I kept this piece because it was one that I won a show with the National Association of Women Artists in New York City, and they gave me the prize was a solo show in their gallery on Fifth Avenue, and that was in 2012. And so this was the piece that won the first prize. I was delighted and elated. Okay, we'll move back forward. And this mask, I have done a few of these, and I would like to do more. This is solid copper, and I cut every one of those leaves individually and wired them to a frame of, I think it was probably, oh, this was built on a mask that was from the neck and throat cancer, a mask that the people that had that have to wear at times. And so we had all these masks, and I built it on that frame. So it was like it had a nice size mesh to it, and I could then add these feathers. The black feathers are aluminum, and that because I found a nice piece of black aluminum that was so wonderful, and so I just cut that group for the contrast. But I hammered this beak actually opens and holds the rose, and I cut and hand shaped and patinaed that rose, and the also the face mask. I just like to do those masks. Okay, so then this was done in 2000. The slide was kind of bad for the one that showed the total side. So this is another interesting piece. The concrete part of this was the inside of the mask that I made out of bronze. I had the regular I can't think of what you call it anyway, the mask, the original mask, which was like um
Was
in,
this self-portrait that you
yes, yeah, yeah.
did? Great.
But anyway, so it comes out, it doesn't, it comes out real interesting, very different. So I liked it that it was that way. And then I could manipulate and make these things look more fishy uh, by just I did this in wet sand and then poured the concrete in. It was quite a method. And then you see some copper dots around between the concrete front of the concrete and then the copper in the back, and those are all copper tacks, and they had to be laid into the form, the wet sand, so that they would harden in the concrete. So when I pull it, it was a very interesting method that I just made up myself.
And Virginia asks, what is the armature?
The total armature in this piece is wood, and it was solid. I bolted together for 30 inches. That's the whole piece. I bolted together 2x4s, little blocks of 2x4s, and I cut them on a bandsaw, having to change the blade several times because I was pushing that bandsaw to its limits. But tapering it down until I got to the very end, and in the back on the very end, you see concrete feet, and I call those fin feet because I stuck my feet in sand and then poured the concrete into that, and that's what came out. And then and with concrete, you only have a very small window of time to kind of reshape some of the things that, um, flaws that you didn't want. The only thing I forgot to do on that piece was sign it, because I could have signed one of the insides of the foot. But instead, that my name is etched in the copper somewhere. And then mounted it on this very, very strong welded steel base. It's kind of heavy, but not too heavy. It comes apart because I made everything transportable.
Joyce, so Regina, who is a sculptor also, she says, so you created a core with sand first and poured ultracal or hydrocal?
No, actually, it was actually gray Portland cement. I poured it right in.
Wow.
I would, because the original mask, which was was heavy mesh impregnated with plaster. That's why I could get, I got such a good shape for for the face, for that
Regina says
bronze.
heavy stuff.
Right, right. But it was heavy, it was strong enough that I could push it into the sand and then take it out and then pour the concrete in. And I was using Portland cement. Um, and it had great results. I did that one summer and I just had the best time working with that.
Did you say green sand?
No, no,
Great.
it was
Okay.
play sand. I went,
Gray sand. Got it.
yeah, play sand is finer than, like, they have different bags of different, some of them can be real coarse, like beach sand. It would have, other aggregate in it. But I used a very fine sand for this, which was play sand for a play box. So I was just using what would work. Okay. And yeah, I would like to get back to doing some of that, because the face was done in two parts, actually. That front, if you can kind of see a light seam between where those tacks are, and then the front part, which had a little more texture, that was put together in two parts because when I poured the face, I would take screws and I would embed the heads in the concrete and leave the thread sticking out about a half of an inch because that hardened and set. And then I had to go back and then actually embed the piece in the sand and then pour that other section with those tacks in it. So it was done in two parts, and the screws then that were sticking up out of the front half of that would nicely adhere to the new concrete I was adding. And then it had to have screws also sticking out in order to get into the next piece of wood because it was going to attach to wood. So it was a process.
So you have this piece?
I do have the piece.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'll never let it go. It's going to stay in the family. Okay. Oh, and I took apart a very thick cable that had very heavy wire in it, and the cable had been burned. I had just a lot of footage of this stuff, and the cable was burned. And when I took the wrapping off, a lot of the wire also was blackened and it was permanent. So that's actually a black stripe that runs, and then I shaped it, into this wavy stuff to fill out the rest of that fish. And I hand shaped and bent the fin at the top, hammered it, and underneath the bottom, that is it's a copper mesh you can see through, and underneath that was gutter guard, which has a fish-like texture to. I mean, yeah, the what do you scrape off a fish? The scales. It looks like scales, and you could barely, you can see through it, so it just makes it look like a fish underneath. Okay, so I'm showing you my very first necklace because these things, jewelry was always in and out. Whatever medium I was working with, it became a piece of jewelry. But this one was early on. I was at the torpedo factory, and it was like I got in the factory in 1974, and this was done about 75, and everything was very raw back then. And on the back deck, I found this rusted piece of a muffler part that had fallen off of, probably there were a lot of industrial trucks back there at the time, because it didn't look anything like it looks now down on that waterfront. And I thought, wow, this is a great piece. And I just, I decided I've got to get some wax linen and do something. And I had all these beads anyway. So that's what I put together in 1975. And I still have that piece, and I wear it quite often. I could have worn it today. But anyway, I love it. And then this was some of the last works that I did, like in January of this year. And that uses memory wire, which keeps its shape forever. Very heavy steel. And I have this device that I can twist beads onto wire. And so this with the little beads and the black were twisted and strung onto the memory wire, and then you see the other side. And I decided that it needed a little more something in the front, and I just like this off-sided drape. So that and shells. And that's another one, doing the same thing. I am trying to perfect in fact, I am going to change the clasp on that one. I think I'm going to hammer a hook, a nice, good looking hook, because that's a little hard to get into that hole, I decided. But that piece it's totally finished. And so that was also done in January. And this piece, any scraps that I had left over, um, that was some of that job. No, that was the downspout. So I love that the patina is here and there, and then I added some gemstones to the bottom, so they kind of dance in and out of that, and then the check glass beads above the hammered copper swirls there, and then started macrameing up and used glass beads and other metal beads to just make the design. And it's kind of similar. It's similar to the piece that I have on my neck here, which is also scraps, and it's been now coated with this liquid to keep its bright a bit of its brightness. But I hand hammer all of my work, and I didn't get to do. I have some that are done with actual rocks that are like 2 inches wide, and I use a lot of wire weaving. And this was an earlier piece. Not necessarily wire weaving, but I just, wrapped, kind of reminded me of Calder and how he would just go to a show with a spool of wire and freak the gallery owner out because he would create the show on the spot. But anyway, this was before I have some hammered pieces of wire in there, but I make all my links and everything and put it all together. Okay, this one is a macrame piece totally, and I did hand hammer the design in the front, and then added the metal beads that go down to some gemstones, and so it's just totally a macrame piece. And the back clasp is a magnetic heart. And I always like to leave those fluffy things on the end. I love that fluff. Okay, this one totally hammered very, very heavy wire, and and a gemstone, which I cannot think of the name of it right now, but then the overlay of the downspouts, and I texturized some washers and put those in, and then it has some the black little round things at the end there of the focus piece are actually some kind of seed, a heavy. It could be blackened coconut. I don't know, but anyway, they were nice and black and the size I needed. So there they are, and then you can see I wrapped the top of those downspout parts so that they make another texture. And it was very, very hard. This was like 10 gauge wire, which is so thick and heavy. So each piece really takes something, and I patinaed it too to get it that color. Okay.
I'm sorry, Linda is asking if any of the necklaces are available to see in person.
Oh, they definitely are. That particular piece has been sold. I do have another one that has red or coral color on it, and it's lovely too. It's similar to this one, but I used coral on it instead. And so that
Are
con
they at the Zenith Gallery
uh,
or intermittently or in
uh,
your home?
there some of the, I think she has quite a few of the um, memory wire necklaces, and she does have the one that has the squares and the dots in it, that one. But I have not made anything since January because of doing some house stuff, and so I'm thrilled to get back into it because I've just regained my large studio space back, and I just cannot wait to get out there and do some more work. So it's been a long process to get my studio functioning again, but it's been all cleaned out and it is ready to go, and I'm fired up. So they can people can come to my house. I can show, more of my jewelry.
We can make a group appointment
Oh, absolutely. That'd
and take you
be
out to
delight.
lunch. That
I
would
would
be great.
okay. I'd love it. Love it, love
And
it.
Linda says, where are you?
I'm in
You're
I'm in Springfield, Virginia.
okay, great.
It's very easy to get to my house. I mean, do you want me to tell you here on this show, or you want to just have them send me the email?
Um, well, we can contact you. People can write to me and I can route them to you.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
wonderful.
And or email me, whatever. Text
Yeah,
me.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's see. My sea slipper. This was built on one of those. It was a child's shoe, actually, because it's not very big, but I just love the way it went together, and it was a real antique uh, last under there, and it was very short, and it had a lot of damage, so I did a lot of wood fill on it so that I could hammer all of these parts into it, because each one of those each one of those copper pieces are highly secured with nails to that shoe last.
Huh. Marcus Smith says, I worked as a goldsmith commercially for 40 years. Joyce's jewelry amazes me and is much more valuable than gold and diamonds.
Oh, thank you, Marcos. So glad you're there. Oh, yes, I've learned a lot from Marcos too on some other um, mediums, and so we have fun talking. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is one of my favorite necklaces, and it was also done earlier this year, or no, it was done last year because I was in the Renwick their craft show that's done in Chevy Chase, and this piece sold to a friend and a collector. I'm so thrilled that she has it, and she said she always wanted a piece of my work, and I'm so thrilled. But that was so fun, and I plan to make others along that same line. I just love that kind of thing, and it seems that other people like it too. So I have lots of beads, and those are some of the beads that you can see behind me. This room is loaded with my jewelry supplies. And I have a workstation over here to the right, and then I have another room up here that I also can do the hammering of small copper, and then the big studio outside. So I'm thrilled. I'm up and running.
Yeah, fantastic. We can't wait to see more. Regina says, sorry, she has to leave soon, but Joyce, have you created any hoop skirts in the azalea trail made tradition?
Um, it's funny. I have a very interesting part that was a huge copper lampshade, and it had hoops, but I have not, and I still have the part, but I haven't done anything with it. But maybe now, you know, now I might take parts of these downspouts and make big skirts. I don't know. I really don't know.
Regina may want to talk to you because she splits her time between New York, upstate New York, where we
Okay.
are in the summer, and Mobile
Oh,
and Coden, Alabama, Mobile County, Coden, Alabama.
oh my gosh. Okay.
So she has a lot in common with your
Oh, we
background.
do. Regina.
Yeah,
That's
that's great.
great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd love to talk to her.
Wonderful.
Okay. So let's see where I am now.
Oh, Regina says near Dolphin Island, if I said it
Dolphin
correctly.
Island, of course. Oh man, I spent many a summer over there, but I guess she's been back. If she's from there, she's been back recently.
I don't know, Regina, do you want to answer that? I don't know if she's still with us or oh, no
Okay.
mic. She doesn't have a mic, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'll put her in touch with you because
Yeah,
I think
do.
you have a lot of common and she'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, well, with all of the hurricanes that were in the south,
Yes.
um, that island lost a lot of ground, and there is a fort at one end of it. And back in the 50s, when I was in high school, um, you could actually drive around completely around that fort. And I was there just about, oh, let's see, in 2017, and the corner of that fort is now underwater. So
Oh, wow.
you cannot, that island has lost so much footage on the width. It used to be a mile across, and it's parts of it are like 30 feet at the
Oh my God.
tip. I mean, but there are people still live on it.
But they're endangered by
Yeah.
climate change,
Oh yeah.
probably. And
Yeah.
oh my God. Well, this couldn't have been better. This is unbelievable. I can't wait for the video so I can revisit some parts myself.
Oh, thank you so
This
much.
was
Thank you for
precious.
having me.
But please, if you have questions, unmute yourself and ask them.
Oh, I
Yeah,
unmute.
so that so I'm talking to the people who are
Oh,
muted,
okay.
not you. Kelly says, Linda Slayan says it's amazing what you've presented and your art. And Kelly and family, Joyce's granddaughter, we have to get off the call soon, but this interview is precious to us. Mimi has always been a star in our family. We're so excited for this interview, getting to other people. Love you,
Oh,
Mimi, she says. So
oh,
prolific, your work. I have a question. Do you ever make earrings?
oh, I have tons. I have tons of earrings. Yes, I make them all the time. I just didn't show any.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And would they be at the Zenith Gallery?
Those are not.
Okay.
Um,
They're in your house then.
yes, I have a suitcase full that's just for shows. It's on wheels, and I take it with me and set up. I can do that. But yes,
Wonderful.
I have lots and lots of different things.
Okay, I need to come to your house
And I do, and
with
I do
Linda
show
and
them.
others. And Frank, thank you
I,
so much. He says for providing this wonderful platform. Thank you, Frank, for coming. It's wonderful to have you. Any other questions? I don't want to hold too us too much beyond the time, but I wonder if anybody has any burning questions, and then we can exchange emails. And I'll give you Joyce. Is your email on your website? I can't remember if it is but
uh, it should be.
great.
I have two, and you can use either one. They'll get to me over I guess, through email. I have Joyce Zipperer at Verizon.net, but I'm trying to not use that so much since they're not supporting
Oh,
email.
they're not supporting. That's right.
Right,
Verizon is concluding or ending
right,
their
right.
email.
But
Yeah.
the other one, which is Joyce dot Zipperer
Okay.
at gmail.com.
That one's active and
Yeah,
continues.
yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. You're going to get a payment in a little bit, but from Jordan,
Oh,
and we'll send you a check, or I
well,
think it's a
thank
check.
you.
Thank you so much for participating. Burning questions, anyone?
Oh, there's Mikey and Vicky, my daughter
From
and
Frankfurt. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. From
You're
Kelly,
awesome, Mom.
Florence.
thank
So
you,
many wonderful people who joined us today.
Stephanie. Yes.
You've so enlightened us. I have a million ideas and questions to ask you about. So I
Oh,
hope you don't mind staying in
no.
touch.
Oh, absolutely. Always. Thank you. And thank you for your patience. I know it's been like a 6-month process.
Oh my God, your patience. Yeah, it's amazing. And you put into it all the tenacity you put into using the media that you find and that you rediscover in stone and other materials. My hat is off to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy doing it. I have so much fun.
Oh, God bless you, and to your grandchildren too for helping us. We're going to close out and wish everybody a fantastic new year. And when you continue your series, we can do a follow-up.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, or maybe we'll have a forum of 3D artists. That would be a
That
nice
would be
thing
fun.
too.
Yeah, whatever.
All
I'm
right,
happy.
and textile artists and so on.
And I'll
Thank
have
you,
to drag
everybody.
I'll have to
Yay.
drag my grandsons in again.
Yeah, right. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tristan. That's wonderful. I take that as a yes.
Hi, Marcos.
Congratulations.
This is her son, and I did post Joyce's email in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I missed it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Joyce Zipperer with a dot in between at gmail.com.
Right.
Thank you so much. Or you can send it to me and I will send it to Joyce, whichever way you want. But I think there are several people, including myself, who want to follow up with you.
Okay. I'll be happy.
All right. What an inspirational talk. Thank you so much, Joyce.
Wonderful.
And have a wonderful holiday, you and everyone.
Okay, you too. We plan on